By the 1840s, international trading vessels and immigrant ships were coming with new settlers, sailing east through Bass Strait. The mariners, merchants, and the British Admiralty were all concerned about the great numbers of wrecks in Bass Strait. In 1845, the wreck of the Cataraqui off the west coast of Kings Island, with the loss of 401 emigrant and crew, shocked the whole community. It drew the Australian colonies together to find a way of cooperating to build the lighthouses essential to keep Bass Strait safe. Foremost of these was the need for a lighthouse on Kings Island, so that the mariners could navigate between the Cape Otway Lighthouse and the northern tip of the island to thread the eye of the needle of Bass Strait.
The weight of responsibility is heavy on my shoulders, but I am prepared to bear it with pride. This will be an opportunity for me to use my considerable skills as an engineer and find a solution. My task is simple, yet essential: to create a great beacon, a guiding light for the ship's captains to steer through this narrow gap in the Southern Ocean. Bass Strait is a mere 90 miles between Cape Otway on the Victorian coast and Cape Wickham at the northern tip of Kings Island. The island is surrounded by such dangerous reefs, especially on its west coast. It has been a graveyard for so many unwary seafarers. Cape Otway has its lighthouse, built by Governor Latrobe only 11 years ago. Now it is my turn to build a lighthouse on this island at the entrance to Bass Strait. I am determined to expedite this great task to the best of my ability. It is indeed a great honour that the governments of Van Diemen's Land, Victoria, and New South Wales have chosen me to carry out this mission. The northern tip of Kings Island is spectacular. Disappointment Bay, with its wide beach, will make a good landing spot for stores, especially if the westerly winds are too strong for a landing in Victoria Cove. If only I was more accustomed to the sea, the roll and pitch of the landing boat is not to my liking. This hunter, William Waite, has lived on the island for a couple of years, selling the kangaroo skins at $1 a pelt. The island is virtually uninhabited. Only a few hunters who live a rough and isolated existence. The sealers have come and gone and taken everything with them. The shores are now deserted. No more elephant seals here. I am hopeful that Mr. Waite will be able to guide me through the bush. His knowledge of the country here is vital to my main purpose: to survey and find a suitable location for our beacon. The report of a previous survey and reconnaissance in 1855 did suggest that all materials for building would have to be imported, a difficult and expensive proposition. Ideally, one needs to find and use what may be available here. Weight has led me to a large stone outcrop south of the dunes at Mount Wickham Ridge. This is worthy of investigation. The ironstone here is of exceptional quality. There is enough of it here to be quarried and used to build the lighthouse tower. I am satisfied that it would be a task of little difficulty, involving no great expense, to open a good bush road sufficient for the purposes required in the conveyance of those heavy articles that would have to be landed at Victoria Cove and Disappointment Bay. A tramway track with horse-drawn cart would be sufficient to transport the quarried stone over the sand hills north of the quarry to the building site. My survey shows that the most suitable site for the lighthouse at Mount Wickham Ridge is 171 feet above sea level. I will design the tower to be 131 feet to the base of the lantern. It should be a fixed beacon in contradistinction to the rotating light at Cape Otway. I estimate from my initial calculations that the Wickham light will be visible from at least 25 miles on a clear night. This is enough distance to give fair warnings to the ships to stay north of it and sail safely directly west through Bass Strait.
This northwestern shore of Kings Island has seen many wrecks in the past few years. The Brahman, Water Witch, Agnes, Whistler, Maypo, and Elizabeth, all brigs and schooners that have capsized, driven on shore and onto reefs by strong norwesterly gales and unpredictable currents. In the difficult conditions of the storms, their commanders were mostly ignorant of their position. A lighthouse here would have most certainly prevented such calamities. As engineer and clerk of works for the Marine Board of Hobart Town, I've been assigned the task of supervising the building of this lighthouse. Having to relinquish my shipbuilding business has not been easy, but at least my debts are honoured, and I can now look forward to this new challenge. The task ahead is complex and daunting. I will approach it step by step, planning and performing each part with the utmost diligence and good humour. Not having a natural harbour or a wharf makes the landing of supplies difficult and precarious. The weather will determine how much we can get done and how quickly. The contractors, Kirkland Anderson and Company of Victoria, are employing a Mr. Robert Swan as manager on the worksite. Let us hope we can all work well together. I believe the building of a lighthouse is no different to building a ship. You must have good craftsmen and good materials. You must build a strong foundation and framework on which to form the structure. And you must assess the work as it progresses and make improvements as you see fit. We have 30 men with us to set up camp and begin the clearing of tracks and roads from Victoria Cove to the west and Disappointment Bay to the north. Then the quarrying can begin in earnest. More men will be arriving as needed. We will have as many as 80 men working at certain stages. William Falconer has drawn up the design of the lighthouse in great detail. 11 flights of stairs, each with 20 steps leading up to the top of the tower. 131 feet to the base of the lantern, and his estimate of the costs for the construction seemed to be well calculated. Mary was determined to accompany me, and I'm grateful to have her with me, although I don't know how she will bear up to the hardships we may have to endure. The weather here is especially inclement in the winter months, and we will be camping rough. But Mary is a resourceful woman and strong-willed. Having brought up 7 children, I think she is now looking forward to this time without them. The men are working well together, and we will have all our main tents up. Mary has been busy with chores around the campsite. It has been good to have her by my side. The stores are all accounted for now, and Mr. Turner is heading off to inspect the quarry site. Nicole Turner is our head mason, an excellent choice. He has been involved with the laying of the foundations for the General Post Office in Melbourne.
The ironstone is of excellent quality, with not many flaws. It will cut through. From my vantage here, I have a full view of the campsite. Mr. Watson is a good and practical man. He has been very interested in my sketching. It will remain a true record of our work here. I am not much at writing, but I do know a picture can be worth 1,000 words. As long as I have my striking hammer and my drove chisel, wherever I go, I am content, and all is well with the world.
Dear Sir, I embrace this opportunity of the constructions vessel leaving, of informing you of the progress made. We have been employed in opening roads and forming a tramway for the bringing in of the stone. The quarry is about half a mile inland, but will require a mile of road from it to the building a small lime kiln, so we'll be able to make our own lime for the mixing of the concrete for our foundations. We have partly sunk the retaining wall for the foundation down to about 12 feet and intend going further. The sand is hard and well compacted.
The island is wild and very beautiful. The beach at Disappointment Bay is glorious. There are so many unusual things to collect and appreciate. The men are too busy with building works to take much notice. By the end of their shifts, they are too tired to do anything than rest and recuperate. My dear Elizabeth, I wish you could be here on my walks. I am so grateful that you have been able to look after your little sister and give me this opportunity to be with your father and help him in this daunting and important work.
Mr. Watson has started to build a small hut for his wife Mary. She's a fine and gentle lady who is doing her best in helping at the various tasks at the campsite. The little time I have left after my work with the stones, I spend with my drawings. I want to show our endeavours in as much detail as I can manage. The feeling of being at the centre of a great task is very tangible and exciting.
I should have entered into more particulars about Victoria Cove, but I have had little notice of a vessel going. It is owing to a sad accident that occurred to one of the men who was out with his gun last Monday, and it went off, sending the charge completely through his foot. No doctor being here, I had to undertake the job, having to cut the second toe off with nothing better than a penknife to do it with. He has gone on very well since. I remain, dear sir, your most obliging servant, John Watson.
The quarrymen, under the supervision of Mr. Swan, have been kept very busy preparing to lay the rail tracks. In the meantime, Matthew, our chief quarryman, has cut a number of large blocks for the foundations. The feather and wedge method of splitting the rock has been very successful. The ironstone has proved to be of superior and consistent quality.
There are so many things to see and discover. Native berries that the birds eat, an abandoned nest of an eagle of some kind, more beautiful paper bark, a magical forest.
The men are happy to have me sketch them when I can. The work is hard and demanding, and I am pleased to record the honesty of their labour. They carry it out with such great skill, diligence and good humour. I am proud to be working with them.
August, and the weather is getting colder. The wind is chilling when it blows in from the west. We bear the full brunt of the roaring 40s. I do hope you will use your influence in having a good surf boat stationed here. I would take charge of her so long as I remain. It is the sort of boat they should have here for landing the stores from the lighthouse and the telegraph station. Now that our telegraphist, Mr. John Doigan, is with us and the telegraph line is operating again, I have been able to report on our progress to Mr. Maxwell more frequently. Cutting through the sandhill completed. Laying tramway's path. Masons dressing stones at quarry. Will commence bringing it by the end of week. Iron store nearly completed. Weather very bad. 50 men at work. John Watson.
I have got used to life at the camp. The men are kind, and the cook has taken it upon himself to look after me. My walks are ranging wider and further afield. I have become familiar with the terrain and always make sure that I am back well before sunset. John has begun writing up some plans for his apprentices in Hobart Town to begin building a surf boat that will be designed specifically to bring supplies, even in the most challenging conditions. It is a good plan considering that we are so reliant on the constant flow of supplies. John's hut has been a haven to me, a place where I can store my growing collection of plants and shells. This is where I can reflect and write to my dear children. This island is more than just a place for a lighthouse. It is a place of mystery, of imagination and wonder.
The dimensions of the surf boat should be 28 feet long overall, 22-foot keel, 8-foot beam, 2 foot 6 inch deep in both ends alike, with a good bit of flare to the bows, fitted at both ends for the steer oar to the 2 midship floats. The rowlocks, fitted to pull double banked, and not much camber to the keel or too flat a bottom. She shall be best built of white Christiana pine, floats the same and copper fastened. The blanks 1/2 inch thick with bent timber, no more than 7 inches apart, and a good keel band in one length. The end should resemble the half of a walnut shell at the small end, and have at least 9 inches sheer. Those men who are experienced shooters are bringing a good supply of fresh wallaby. If the animal is not too large, the meat is tender and cooks well in a hearty stew. The hoists are working well, and under the supervision of Mr. Swan, the men have been able to lift the dress stones with block and tackle to the heights required on the tower. The draft horses have also been invaluable at pulling the heavier stones on the tramway from the quarry to the tower. The tower is now 51 feet high and has stood 7 days. The cargo lime is hourly expected from Geelong. Whatever the qualities of our local limestone may turn out, it abounds within 500 yards of the lighthouse. Some hundreds of tons can be got. The boat has discharged and sailed for Hobart Town on the 24th. A vessel from Melbourne with a quantity of joiner work, rivets and castings for the stairs should be arriving soon. Tower now 110 feet high, and on completion of the 10th story in 8 days, weather permitting. It will be advisable to have the lantern here before fixing the upper story, so as to get the exact sizes and space. All the stone will be ready dressed. Tower stands very firm. Tried a plumb line inside yesterday and found it correct. Cottage is progressing. Keeper's quarters lathed, ready for plasterers. Carpenters getting a veranda up and going on with the interior all night. John Watson. Dear Sir, I'm happy to inform you that the lantern and apparatus is all safe on shore this morning. We have had a little rough weather since the ship arrived on the 29th. She is now taking in the luggage and passengers and will sail to Melbourne in a few hours. The tower was completed on Saturday in the masonry. Alfred Calville, the lantern engineer, has finally arrived. His voyage from England has taken 119 days due to bad weather most of the way, but still was very keen to show me his plans for the fitting of the beacon. By his reckoning, it will be done in a couple of weeks.
This island is more than just a place for a lighthouse. It is a place of mystery, of imagination and wonder. I know I will have to leave the island soon, and I will probably never return. But it will always have a place in my heart. It has given me a freedom I will always cherish. Now its light can shine and show the way to all who venture to its strange and wonderful shores.
On July 14, 1866, the Netherby, a 944-ton vessel sailing from England, ran aground on a reef close to shore at Fitzmaurice Bay. All 413 immigrants and 49 crew were able to get ashore and salvage provisions and supplies. A small group of volunteers, led by Second Officer John Parry, walked 4 days to Wickham Lighthouse to get help. The lighthouse keeper gave them the surf boat that John Watson had designed. They sailed it across Bass Strait and landed at Roadknights Point on the Victorian coast. Within a week, all the castaways were rescued by the steamships Pharos and Victoria. This was the legacy of John Watson and the lighthouse builders, heralding a new era of safe navigation through Bass Strait and the development of Australia as a seafaring nation.